Hello and hello everyone, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. Yes, I'm alive! Woohoo! So I decided to carry on with YouTube. It's a decision that I have debated over for a while now. You know, YouTube is carrying on. There are plenty of creators that haven't dropped dead. It'll be fine. I don't talk about children's topics. I don't cater to children, so it's all fine. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just forget about it. I'm gonna continue making videos on YouTube just because I like it. Some of my friends have switched over to IGTV, which is basically like the Instagram videos, which I'm so glad that they're just still making content instead of quitting altogether. But I really love the platform of YouTube. I hate change and I don't want to have to jump ship, so I'm not gonna. Anyway, today is January's wrap up. I had a pretty good reading month this month. I read 4 books, although that sounds like pretty much my average. Some of them were fairly big, so yeah, if you did page count, it's a lot more pages than normal, I'd say. But yeah, let's get straight into the books I read. The first book I read in 2020 was a very hyped book, a book I've thought about buying, bought, had on my shelf for a long time, super hyped, and I was scared of, but here we are, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I've read the Grish trilogy a few years ago. Did I remember any of the characters or information I needed to remember? Not a single bit, but I've read them. I thought they were okay. I didn't love them. So this duology, I know a lot of people say, is way better than the Grish trilogy, so I was really interested to read these two and see if that's true and if I agreed. Problem was, going into this book, was the hype was so strong, and I knew that it was influencing me. I knew that it had a lot of pressure on its shoulders to deliver something amazing, and I put way too much pressure on it. I started reading this book and was like, it's okay. Don't know what's going on. Why don't I remember any of the names? Like, I recognised certain names, was like, yeah, that's someone who was in the Grish trilogy. Don't remember who they are, but their name sounds familiar. It was a bit of an ominous start where I was like, oh dear, I don't think I like it as much as everyone else. And then I got into it, I started reading it, I got further along, and by the end of this book, I really enjoyed it. Hype aside, let's just talk about the book. This book is about a group of people who are con artists and thieves and criminals, and essentially they have to band together to perform this almost impossible heist for this mass reward. Each of these characters has a motivation for being there, and they're like a ragtag group who shouldn't really belong together but kind of do, and they have to do this impossible rescue mission to rescue this prisoner. There is lots of violence and action and vulgarity and criminal legal activity going on, and it's a really fun read. It does start off slower. It's, you know, I guess it is a fantasy, you're getting used to the world. And Ravka, or wherever this one's set, I know it's like that Russian-inspired Grisha universe. Wherever it's set, you know, it takes a little bit to kind of understand the world. Where are we? Introducing all of these characters, but by the time like you get to the heist, it's so high stakes, and the heist is so well written. Like, it's really clever how she made it like really difficult, but then not like super convenient. She made it difficult enough to be, damn, that's difficult, but not so difficult that it's like you never would have done that. I love all of our characters. I think that is why this book is so popular and why it shined out to me, is each of the characters is so fleshed out and real in their own personality. No character blends together. They all have really funny banter and like conversations and relationships with each other. You know, a lot of these characters are quite brutal and mean, and they're not typically the good guys. They're not the nice people. So you've got that kind of antagonist group of heroes trope going on here, which is pretty fun. But you root for them 100%. And by the end of the story, I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the way the plot developed. And I think it's a really good book. It ended on a bit of a cliffhanger for the next one, which I will get to at some point soon. But for now, yeah, I did really enjoy it. Yeah, beware when going into books that are so hyped. I tried to leave it at the door, but I didn't. That kind of tripped me up. But yeah, it was a good book, and I'm really glad I got to it. The second book I read of this year was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. Pretty sure that's how you say it. This was a buddy read with my good friend Matthew from Jam Entertainment. Me and Matthew had been planning to read this for a while, and we picked January back at the end of last year, and January arrived and we read this and talked about it over Twitter message together, and it was so much fun reading along with Matthew, because me and Matthew like write essays to each other. Like, we're not just like, yeah, this was cool, like we go into detail and it's so much fun. So this book is set in a very unusual fantasy world where it's basically like a Asian inspired fantasy land. I wouldn't know where specifically Asian it would, I'd probably say like Chinese-ish inspired, you know, basically Asian inspired, although Asia's so broad. Yeah, it's set in this like Asian inspired fantasy realm where there are these like demon people. There are 3 castes of people, so there's like regular humans, which are like paper castes, there's steel castes, which are like half and half, and then there's like moon casts, which are full-on demons, so they're basically animal people. So basically fairies. No, not just, there's like ram people and swan people and fox people, and it's a whole thing. It takes a minute for your mind to adjust to. It was a bit of a leap of faith for the animal people, not gonna lie, because it's just something quite contrasting for me in my imagination to conjure and believe. But I do think it was a really interesting world that Natasha Nagan set up, and the story was just so good and well done that it wasn't too distracting. So this story follows our main character Lei, who lives in a really quiet like rural village with her dad and this like shop assistant, because her dad runs a shop, and there's like this assistant who's like her best friend sister kind of character, and her dog, and the 3 are very happy together until the king's like raiding party comes through and takes her to be a paper girl, which is essentially these group of girls who are there to serve the king. And by serve I mean, yeah, I mean serve. So basically they're like sex slave prostitute women for the king, and it's supposed to be this great honour, but obviously not every girl wants this privilege. And I really thought that those heavy themes were so interesting and well done in this story, which was probably one of my favourite parts of the story. So Lei gets taken into the palace and she has to adjust to palace life, the life that she didn't want. Like at the beginning, like it's traumatizing. She's basically ripped from her family. This is a tragedy, and she's gonna have to now go bang the king who she doesn't want. Yeah, it's pretty traumatizing. But she kind of starts to get used to palace life, and there's this whole guilt trip, and then there are all the other paper girls, all sorts of different interesting relationships, some that are mysterious, some that desperately want to be the king's favourite, like they want this, but do they? And then there are the bitchy ones and the nice ones, and it's a really interesting dynamic. If it wasn't kind of clear from that description, there are a lot of trigger warnings in this book. Things like sexual assault, slavery, rape, like abuse, all sorts of topics like that. So be aware of that with this book. There's also a female-female romance in this book, which was just so good. I love it when a female-female romance or any kind of gay, queer romance seems so natural. It was so good. I was rooting for our like love interest and our main character so much. I shipped them so hard from so early on, and right from the go I was like, are those 2? Because I would be happy with that. And they were, and it was great. There were some real scenes in this that shocked me, and I was like, oh no, like especially scenes with the king. The king was set out to be this intense, horrible, intimidating figure that obviously our main character does not want to interact with or have any intimacy with, and yet, you know, her choice doesn't mean anything. And so there were some real brutal scenes, some real harsh moments, and yet there was also so much like hope buried in it, her own personal plots and all sorts of palace politics and uprisings and resistances, and I really enjoyed this story. There are even like small little character interactions with random characters that seem to have so much heart to them, and I just think it was a really beautifully written story from plot to characters and the writing. Now the writing was really interesting. I'd probably describe it as lyrical and descriptive and beautiful, but not flowery. I don't know if that makes sense. It wasn't like too overly flowery and poetic, but I don't know, there was something lyrical and textured, and I don't even know how to describe it, but I thought the descriptions and the writing style of this author was very interesting and very Natasha Nagan. Like, I think if I could read a different book, I would recognise her writing style, which is always a cool thing because it gives the book its own personality, completely separate from the plot and the characters. This style of writing has its own way of speaking. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I think my brain has fried. This month has killed me and I can't speak anymore. Absolutely love this story. I'm really looking forward to the second one because it ended in like a bang and I'm just like, what's gonna happen next? I want to know, and hopefully I will get to read that second one with Matthew as well. So thanks Matthew for reading this book with me. I had so much fun, although I did speed through it and I'm sorry. But yeah, if any of those topics sound interesting to you, I recommend picking it up and just go for it and see what happens. Book number 3 that I read this month was kind of emotional, not gonna lie. That was Light by Michael Grant. And if you've been here for the last 6 months, then you'll know that me, Nikki from I Read Past My Bedtime, and Brandon from Brandon Scott have been buddy reading this series, the Gone series, since August, a book a month. And this is the last one. 6 books, 6 months. When I said that out loud, I was like, damn guys, we've been reading this book for 6 months? That sounds crazy when you put it out loud. That's like half a year of my life that I've been reading this series with you guys. That's just a bit insane. But this last book, oh, it rounded everything out. It was the penultimate finale climax and it did not disappoint me. After 6 books of action and 6 books of drama and depression and depravity and desperation, every single book held up and didn't lag, and the plots were interesting, and with the characters' developments, every single book was great. So there's no surprise that this one just capped it. It had a lot of pressure, but I was never worried for it, and it never was a worry because it just smashed it out of the park. I loved how it ended. It was so dramatic. I was like, is anyone gonna survive this? Spoiler alert, not everyone does, won't tell you who. There was so many moments where I was just like dying inside for our characters, and the ending was just so beautiful and it was a great ending and I wouldn't change a thing about it. But on a separate note from the actual story, I was also emotional at the end because this was the last book of the series. I've had a really long, involved time with this series, reading it with friends, and this series has really taken me on a ride. To be at the last one and get to the end, I was like, that's it. I put the book down. It's like, that's the last time. Me, Sam, Astrid, Orc, Brianna, Decca, Kane, Diana, and so on and so on and so on. It's the last time, guys, that we're gonna see each other. Like, it's weird, like, I should not have this much attachment to fictional people, but that's what a good author does. I was just kind of emotional that it was the last book of this long series. I've enjoyed this series so much. It would be so strange from now on just not having a Gone book every month, and I kind of want to just reread it, but I've just read them, so I'll probably wait. Yeah, if that's not a testament to the strength of this whole series, to every single book, including the end, I don't know what is. Michael Grant, you're a genius. And Brandon, you're a hero for bringing this series to our attention and to making me read these books that, well, not making me, I chose to, but I was never going to read these. What a travesty that is to the world that I'd kind of written these off, and now it's probably up there. It will always have a place in my heart and I love it. I've finished the Gone series, everyone. Yay! And the last book I read in January, or technically I'm still reading, because at the time of filming this, I have not finished it. I'm so close to the end. This is a big book. It's a lot of pages, and it is The Tall by Beale Schusterman. See, I am here. Yeah, not much left now, guys. I am on page 503, it's like 630 pages, I think. Obviously, I have finished reading Scythe and Thunderhead in previous videos at the end of 2019, and I've absolutely loved this series, which no one is surprised about. But this book, it was such a gigantic finale, and it was probably slower because the second one ended in such a dramatic fashion. and this one slowly picked up again. But I'm loving how these characters are all coming together, how the after effects of Endura and how Goddard is taking over, and the situation with Rowan and Citra. Obviously I don't want to get into any detail because I don't want to spoil anything from 1 and 2 or anything from 3, so I'm going to talk real vague about this one, sorry. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting to that point now, it's like I'm near the end and I still don't know what's going to happen, and I'm guessing it's going to just go BAM and hit me all at once, and there's going to be a big ending and I don't know what it's going to be. Oh, I want to get to the end so bad. I wish I could have finished this before I filmed the wrap up. I absolutely love these characters and this story and this world, and if anyone hasn't read this series, which I think the whole world has by now, then you should pick it up. I'm also really excited to read a bunch of like the Toll or Scythe trilogy reviews and stuff, because I've had a bunch saved on my YouTube that I haven't been able to watch because I don't want to spoil myself for the third one, so I've had to wait till I finish the third one, and now I can watch all those YouTube videos of like book talks on this book, and I'm excited to do that and see what other people think, especially people that love it, because I don't need the negative opinions and energy over here. But yeah, I'm having so much fun. And something, I noticed this last night, these covers are gorgeous. This one, this guy in the middle, won't tell you who that is, although I know. There's obviously a head and there's the tuning fork, clever. And then you've got these scythes on the end with their robes and the sides. That's what you see, right? Yeah. Well, I just noticed last night while looking at the book that it's not just like a scythe robe with no face. The face is there. Can you see like the outline of the face makes the scythe? I mean, design goals. Well done, whoever designed this cover. I see what you did there, that's clever. The negative space face making the... For some reason that detail really pleased me and I needed to share it with you. I want to know, did you notice that? Has it taken me way too long to see that? I want to know if you noticed it. Maybe you just, that's how you always looked at the cover. But now, whenever I look at the cover, I see the face. I never saw the face before. Human brains are weird and I love designs like this. Yeah, I finished the first 3 books this month fairly early on in the month, so I had like a good 2 weeks to read this, and oh, I just love Neil Shusterman, and I'm going to be sad when it's over because then no more new Neil Shusterman, although I've still got Neil Shusterman books that I've never read before, so that will have to sustain me. But I'm just so glad that Neil has not only made this great series, but it's getting so much recognition. So these are the 4 books I read in January. It was a very, very good reading month. I really enjoyed every book I read this month quite a lot. From the super hyped to the interesting to the emotional and to the favourite. There is so much to love about this month's reading, and I hope you had a plentiful reading month as well. Please let me know down below which of these 4 books you've read or you have any opinions on, and I would love to talk to you about any of these books because I enjoyed all of them and I'd like to talk to you in the comments. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're not already, because I'm carrying on with this YouTube thing, guys, and hopefully it will be worth it. I just couldn't not record what I've read, and that's what this is all about for me. It always has been about documentation of my own thoughts. It's a lot of work, but it's something that I love to do and I love to look back on. Hopefully you're glad I'm here to stay too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.